Well, when you throw away a plastic bottle, it could end up in the belly of a baby bird thousands of miles away. Vancouver photographer Chris Krug wants people to think about how their actions could have some long-lasting consequences. He's currently out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean on Midway Island to document plastic pollution, and we have reached him there by phone. Hello, Chris.
Hi there, Stephen.
Now, what exactly are you doing out there on Midway Island?
I'm out here with a team of artists and documentarians, including photographer Chris Jordan, and we're documenting the effects of plastic pollution in the oceans.
Most people are probably most familiar with Midway Island as something to do with the battle in the Pacific. Describe it for me today.
Well, about 20 years ago, Midway was turned over from the military over to the National Fish and Wildlife Service, and in many ways is beginning to start to revert back to a more natural state. There's no longer military people here. Almost everyone is a scientist or a researcher. The island's about 1 mile by 1 mile. There's actually a couple islands that make up the Midway Atoll here, and it is covered with birds, seabirds of all types, including Albatross, 500,000 mating pairs.
So tell me what you're finding there.
A lot of people have probably heard of it. There's problems with, plastic in the ocean. It's sometimes called euphemistically marine debris, but it's really, plastic pollution. And not only is it washing up on the shores of coasts everywhere across the world and swirling in the middle of the Pacific Ocean in the Great Garbage Patch, also the seabirds of the world have begun to mistake it for food and are eating it and bringing it back to their chicks that have never left the island. So Chris Jordan and myself and some other folks are making a film out here called Midway, documenting the plastic pollution here. And really what we're seeing is chicks dying, tens of thousands of chicks dying of dehydration and starvation. And when they decompose, or in our case when we open them up, they have bellies just full of plastic. The reason they're dehydrated and starving is because they can't receive any more fish eggs or squid from their moms, because their bellies are full of, Bic lighters, Coca-Cola bottle caps, plastic toothbrushes, plastic hairbrushes, everything you can imagine is washing up here in the most remote place on the planet, more or less, and being found in the belly of these great seabirds.
If the plastic is showing up in these chicks and they've never left the island, how is it getting into them?
The albatross are famous for making these great voyages out to sea, the mother and father albatrosses, and they'll be out there for up to 2 weeks at a time and travel 1,000 kilometers to get to the food source. And then they're plucking food off the surface, sometimes fish eggs, sometimes these squid that rise up. So they're ingesting the plastic, and they're flying it all the way back to Midway Island and regurgitating it into the mouths of their babies.
And how many birds, you talked about chicks, do we see adult birds succumbing to this as well?
Yeah, absolutely we do. Chris Jordan has been out here multiple times and has published a beautiful series of photos that have received international acclaim. But right now it's the breeding season, and these cute, fluffy little babies, the healthier ones almost look like furry little turkeys. And it really just kind of brings home the point. This is the detritus and the pollution of modern life, which has made it all the way out here and into the bodies of chicks that can't even feed themselves. There's really no other explanation for it.
Chris, how does what you're doing now compare with work you have done previously?
Well, last year I was out covering the BP oil spill in Louisiana for National Geographic, which was another, sensitive population that was pretty much devastated by our reliance on petroleum-based products. Plastic and oil are different variations of essentially the same thing. And in that case, it was the pelicans, the Louisiana brown pelican and the rookeries there that were being destroyed by the oil that was washing ashore. And it's quite tragic, but, I kind of view them as heroic little messengers. They're here to tell us what's going to happen to us if we kind of continue along in our dependences on oil. And really, this issue comes down to these things that you may go out to Starbucks and get a coffee in a plastic glass or something, and you might use it for 20 minutes and throw it away. But where is it away, really? It ends up here on Midway Island, and it's not just going to kill one bird potentially. Once this plastic, makes it into the system of the bird and kills the bird, the body decomposes, the plastic washes back into the sea. The plastic hasn't decomposed, and it's likely going to be eaten by multiple generations of birds until multiple generations of birds along the way. I use a plastic camera to document this stuff. There are certain areas where we can't get around our use of plastic or different things. There's certain areas where it makes more sense than others. But if someone just really wants to make a change that will have a real impact on the environment, get rid of single-use disposable plastics in your life.
Yeah, but Chris, how does the plastic end up out there in the middle of the Pacific? If I go to Starbucks and buy a drink in a plastic cup, I assume it ends up in the Vancouver landfill.
Well, there's all different ways, It washes off. If you drive down the highway anywhere, you'll see the streets lined with, bottle caps and garbage and different things. Recycling programs aren't necessarily as effective as they need to be. This plastic comes from all other places, whether it be litter or improper disposal. A lot of communities in different places improperly dispose of waste, just kind of thinking if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. So this plastic comes from everywhere, from all of us. It's the stuff that we come across every day.
Chris, how soon might we see some part of the film or the film in its entirety?
Well, there's a few things you can check out now. We have a trailer for the film up right away. We've shot, dozens of hours of footage out here and hope to have a feature-length film kind of together by the beginning of next year. But you also can check out Chris Jordan's photos that he's been published along the way. He presented those at the TED conference in Long Beach, California. They're really striking and compelling. And then I've been producing more of my kind of social media documentation-style photographs via Flickr and my blog and Twitter and stuff. And those are online today. You can check those out, flickr.com/KK or twitter.com/KK.
Chris Krug, very good to talk with you this afternoon. Thanks for taking the time with us.
Hey, man, this is very important for me. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
We appreciate your time. Bye-bye now. Chris Krug, a Vancouver photographer. He is on Midway Island filming a documentary.